I wish I could unsee this sexist piece of garbage, but it got shared to my Instagram feed and I just had to click it. So here we are reacting to the aptly named selfish feminist and the problem with not all men and why you should stop saying this. I actually agree. I think it should be a little bit more specific because it's not all men. It's not most men. In fact, it should be not many men. But let's see what this person has to say. 1. Women are not stupid. Of course we know that not all men are rapists/sexual harassers or whatever. The statistics say so. However, how are we supposed to know which ones are and which ones aren't? You can say that about anything. You can say that about a man. He might be friendly or he might be just waiting to rape you. But you could say that about a dog. If you pet a dog, it might be friendly or it might bite you and it might even have rabies. If you cross the street, you will probably be safe, but maybe a car will come out of nowhere and run you over. There's risk associated with basically everything. And to say that men are exclusively dangerous is just false. Better to err on the side of caution, no? Yeah, but you don't need to be that cautious because not that many men are rapists. How are we supposed to know who is saying hi in a friendly manner or who actually needs directions as opposed to just wanting to harass you? Yeah, because everybody asking for directions, it doesn't actually need directions. They're not actually lost. They just want a little bit of your pussy. That's all. Most women end up assuming the worst because most times they have assumed the best. They have endured painful consequences. Wait, you're just contradicting what you said over here, that you know that the statistics say so. Do you not understand that most men aren't rapists and sexual harassers? I guess it's kind of our fault for not dumbing it down a little bit more so that your little pea-brain could understand. But most people aren't going to rape a woman. That stranger you once decided to stop and give directions to ended up following you to your destination because he mistook your kindness for interest. That doesn't just happen. That man you casually chatted with at the bar when you thought you were being nice ended up forcing himself on you, kissing you against your wishes. I find it hard to believe that anybody would want to kiss you. It is safer for us to learn that you are a good man when we are suspicious than to learn rather painfully that you are a bad man because we gave you the benefit of the doubt. Imagine if you said this about anything else. Like, imagine if you saw someone wearing a hijab and you assumed, well, must be a terrorist unless proven otherwise. Do you understand how Islamophobic that would be? Now, when you apply that to men, is it suddenly okay? He has a cock, so I'm going to assume without any further evidence that he's a rapist just waiting to harass me. Do you understand how you're not only saying that men as a whole group are more likely to rape, you're actually applying that to an individual level. If you actually believe that, the sexist is you. Yes, poor little old you. There we were discussing rape. Yeah, because that's just what people do all the time. When two people meet, the first thing they say is, hello, how are you? And the second thing they talk about is rape. Who raped you yesterday? Who catcalled you a week ago? I'm so hot. Everybody's just lining up, waiting to harass me. Violence against women. You know that violence against women is far less common than violence against men, right? But who cares about that? Violence against women is specifically bad. Systemic oppression. Have you looked at the system? If you're talking about systemic oppression, just look at the U.S. law system. Name one right that women have that men don't have. I can't think of any. I mean, I can think off the top of my head of 3 ways that women have rights that men don't have. One is the draft. Currently, if Donald Trump bombs the wrong Iranian general and sends us to World War III, all us men, we're going to get drafted off to fight in Afghanistan or wherever the fuck and get blown up and nobody will care about us. Women, on the other hand, they get to just stay at home and be safe and cuddly and cozy. The second one is genital integrity. If someone came and cut off the hymen of a girl, people would be all over that. Genital mutilation. But when millions of boys have the ends of their dicks cut off at infancy for no great medical reason, nobody bats an eye. And number 3, the right to opt out of being a parent. So right now, if a woman gets pregnant, she can have an abortion, which, good. And the man can't decide whether the woman gets the abortion because it's her body. So if a man has no control and a woman has 100% control of whether they together have a child, how come men have to be held responsible for the child? How come men can't opt out of paying child support, opt out of being a parent? That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. So those are 3 rights that women have that men don't have in the American law system. Now, can you name a single law that gives men rights that women don't? Until then, you can't say that systemic oppression exists. And other manifestations of sexism. And you had to jump in to remind us that not all men do these things. Yeah, this is just flying right over your head. The point isn't that not all men do these things. The point is that men aren't a group to be vilified because most men don't rape. Understand? Get that nailed into your brain. Why don't you really say what you want to say? I have never raped / hit / assaulted a woman. That's not the point of what we say when we're saying not all men. But again, I guess you have no ability to take things in context. You have to read everything absolutely literally. Right? Isn't this what you really want to say? No? Yes, make a discussion that is about the plight of millions of women about poor little old you. I mean, millions of women are being assaulted and oppressed. That isn't a problem unique to being a woman. In fact, again, men are more likely to be assaulted and oppressed. Maybe around the globe, but around here, we're all oppressed just the same. But you've never done it, so why are we making you uncomfortable with these discussions? Uncomfortable? You're the one who feels uncomfortable about the mere presence of a man. Those are your criteria of feeling uncomfortable, that a man is anywhere close to you. And yet you are complaining about how a man is uncomfortable about you saying that he's likely a rapist? This is a huge double standard and makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Next page. 3. When women and their allies talk about these things, patriarchy. This concept of the patriarchy is just stupid. Whether it's the head of a household, the head of a company, or the head of the political system, there is no rule stating that a woman can't be any of those things. I mean, literally, Hillary won the popular vote. And with CEOs being male, how does that make that a patriarchy? If a woman was the CEO of a company, would that make it a matriarchy? Is it possible in any way for a male lead of a company to be fair? No, of course not. Only women are morally good. Men are all evil. And this idea that men being CEOs more often contributing to men in general having privilege, like how does that work? A CEO isn't going to go talk to an employee and say, well, I have a Johnson, you have a Johnson, I'm going to treat you better and pay you more because you have a Johnson. It doesn't work like that. The CEO is trying to pay everybody as little as possible to drive up profits. In fact, you can look at the people in power and they happen to be men more often, but it doesn't translate to men in general having an advantage. Because not only do you have to look at the top, you have to look at the bottom. And if you look at the bottom echelons of society, what do you see? 60% of all homeless people are men. 50% more. Men occupy the top and the bottom of society. And guess what? There's a lot more spaces on the bottom than there are on the top. So if you ask me, I'd rather stay in the middle where the women are, where people actually care about you, where people won't kick you while you're down, where people will help you. So you can't just look at the patriarchy and see, well, there's men in power, men must have it better. It's not true. For men, it's competition. It's stepping all over each other to get to the highest position possible. You'll realize being a man sucks. Unless you get to the top, then you'll be great, but otherwise, it sucks a lot and more than it would be if you were a woman who was unsuccessful. sexism, misogyny, rape, violence against women. We are not talking about men as individuals. Yes, you are. So you're taking a look at the leaders of society and seeing that they're all men, and then you're applying the individuals to the whole system, the whole group of men. You're saying, well, there's men at the top. That means men must be on top of women. And then, so you're taking the top level and applying it down to the individual level as well. Saying, when you meet a man, you're going to assume, because he has a dick, that he is a rapist or a sexual harasser until you can prove otherwise. So not only are you applying individuals at the top of society and applying it to the larger whole, you're taking the larger whole and applying it to the individual members of society and saying, well, he's a man, guess he's a rapist, guilty until proven innocent. We are talking about structural issues, patriarchal society, which doesn't exist and is misleading, institutions and systems. You are the one who takes it upon yourself to make this personal with your not all men slogan. No, you are the one to make it personal by saying when you meet a man, you're going to assume he's a rapist until proven otherwise. We must never forget that one benefits from privilege by being part of a group, not because of anything you have done to earn or deserve it. By being a man, you are more privileged in a society than a woman. No, fuck you. You have no clue. People treat men like shit. People care about women. Nobody cares about men. You have no idea what it's like to be a man. I have no idea what it's like to be a woman. And the grass is always greener on the other side. So why don't you shut the fuck up? Because you have no clue. You wouldn't last a single day as a man. Similarly, by being white, one is more privileged than people of color. I mean, I'm sure you and I could both think of some instances where being black, for example, is better than being white. For example, if you're in the hot sun, you'd rather not have a sunburn. Black people statistically have slightly longer dicks than white people. If you're trying to be drafted into the NBA, being black certainly helps. Am I saying that the benefits outweigh the costs? No. But based on who you are and what situation you're in, it could change at a moment's notice. It's still subjective. By being straight/cisgendered, one is more privileged than LGBTI people. Yes, the US law system actually is against LGBTI people, so we're on the same page there, I guess. All these, as you may have noticed, are accidents of nature. You did nothing to earn or deserve such privilege. Okay, this entire privilege idea is pointless. So let's say I'm a straight white male, and you're comparing it to you. For example, you're a gay black woman. So you could say, wow, I have so much privilege than you. Yeah, but a gay black woman in America is so much better off than a child starving in Africa. But wait, there's more. If you're a child starving in Africa, you're still mountains of privilege better than all the sperm cells your father ejaculated that didn't go on to fertilize an egg cell and just flopped over and died. Can you see how we can go on further and further back pointlessly? I mean, who gives a fuck? Living in constant reminder and shame of your own privilege does absolutely nothing to further humanity, because at the end of the day, whether you're white or black or male or female or cis or trans, we all have the same basic needs, and we should be addressing people based on our needs. You can't fix sexism with more sexism. You can't fix racism with more racism. Two wrongs don't make a right. It doesn't work that way. When we do not acknowledge this, we are part of the problem. You're never going to get me on board with this. The only way that I see that we can finally move past this issue is to stop giving a shit about what identity everybody has and treating people like individuals and human beings. Until then, we're going to be squabbling with each other based on tribalistic divisions. So why don't we stop pointing the finger of blame at different groups saying, hey, they're all the cause of our problems, they're the cause of all our problems, aren't they so evil? When you interrupt a discussion on misogyny/rape culture, there is no rape culture. If you asked 100 people whether rape was bad, 100 out of 100 of them would say yes, rape is very bad. Now, you might get the odd person who asks, well, what was she wearing? But that in no way tells us that that person doesn't think rape is that bad. There's only one place where there might be a rape culture, and that's in prison. In fact, there's basically every sort of violent culture in prison because apparently people lose all empathy for people if they happen to have made some mistakes in the past. And guess what? Those people in prison, mostly men. What a surprise. Sexism to let us know that you are not like these men. You silence the women and men having these discussions. Who's doing the silencing here? Look at the title of this entire post. The problem with not all men and why you should stop saying this. Who is silencing who now? How about I say what I want to say and you say what you want to say? How about that? And derail the conversation from its initial purpose to illuminate the plight of women, to dealing with you and your supersedingly important feelings. You're the special snowflake. That's you. Are you just projecting or something? You completely ignore how you benefit from our patriarchal society and shake off any responsibility in propagating its existence. No, again, this society where men are expected to rise to the top and be successful, that's more damaging to men than it is to women. So fuck that. This is a douche move, and you are like these men. Yeah, I am like those rapists and sexual harassers. By saying that not all men are rapists and sexual harassers, I become just as bad as they are. Fuck you, you slimy piece of shit. 5. Most women and men are raped by men. Okay. The rape statistics in Kenya are shocking. The fact that you have never hit a woman does not negate the fact that most violence against women is gender-based and is perpetrated by men. Okay? Who cares why something is perpetrated? The only thing that matters is people are victims of violence. And again, you're completely ignoring the fact that men are more likely the victims of violence. The fact that you have never raped a woman or man does not negate the fact that most rapists are male. Yeah, but there's a difference between that and associating me as a man with most males. The fact that you know women who are educated does not erase the fact that more women than men are uneducated by design. That's not even true. Women are more educated than men in the United States. I'm pretty sure that women are less likely to drop out of high school, more likely to finish and graduate from high school, more likely to get a degree, and more likely to achieve the highest levels of educational achievement. So that's just false. The fact that you know women who earn more than you does not negate the fact that women still earn less than men for the same work. I'm not going to say that the gender pay gap doesn't exist, because we don't know. But there are many factors. For example, women are more likely to want to go and leave their job to start a family. They're more likely to prioritize family over work, when for men it's the other way around. Men are more likely to be completely absorbed within their own work. They're more likely to work more overtime hours. There are plenty of psychological reasons for why men might earn more than women, even if it is for the same job. Now, there's tons and plenty of variables that you could adjust for, and we don't know what all of them are. But you can't just simplify it down to, well, men make more and women make less. Must be sexism, even if there is a gender-based reason for why men make more than women. It does not mean that the reason for that discrepancy has anything to do with misogyny or sexism in any way. And besides, money is only as good as what you spend it on. And guess what? Who does the most spending in America? Women. Women spend far more and make far more of the consumer decisions than men. So what it seems like is women are making less money than men, but the men are actually turning around and giving that money to their families, specifically to the women, so they can make all the consumer choices. And so who really has the spending power and who actually influences the economy? Who actually has all of that power? The women do. You don't need to make that money if you can get a man to do it instead. So you have to look at both sides of this equation here. And who has it better? Honestly, I'd say the women. This is the reality. No, it's not. This is not about you. Yeah, it's all about you and your hurt feelings because someone dared to defend themselves from you generalizing men. We do not hate men. Yes, you do. Because we are acknowledging facts. No, you're not. Backed by statistics. No, you're not. All over the world. No one is out to crucify you. Yeah, you're just trying to make me take responsibility for the wrongdoings and sins of other men. Wait, no, that's exactly why Jesus was crucified. Yeah, you're clearly not trying to crucify me. You're just, deciding whether or not I'm a rapist or a sexual predator based purely on the genitals between my legs. That's all. You're just telling me that I don't deserve what I have in life just because I'm a man. That's all. Go fuck yourself. 6. Had you rather we start each statement with some men? No, I'd rather you not even mention that at all. Would that make you feel better? Because I beg to differ, it should be too many men. Again, I just don't want you to be lumping rapists into this huge group and vilifying men. Saying, well, men, they're the source of all our problems. We should get rid of them. Is it that you want us to acknowledge and quite possibly commend the fact that you have never assaulted a woman? Again, that's not the point of not all men. It's not most men. As my friend at Nani MG once asked, oh, fuck you, Nani MG. Do you want us to give you a cookie for being a good man? I mean, I wouldn't object to a cookie. Pause for a second and think about how messed up that is. No, fuck you, little bitch. There's also this note on the right, so let's read that. This post got deleted, so here it is again. Wish it would have stayed deleted. It's also important to remember that by saying this, you're not only excusing yourself from the conversation, but you're enabling others to also not take part because they also assume they're not part of the problem even when they might be, which is damaging. Again, imagine if we said most rapists and sexual harassers are black. Would it be okay for you then to say, this is a black person's problem, or a Muslim's problem? You see how racist and Islamophobic that would be? How come it's suddenly okay when you're applying it to men? I understand why y'all might feel uncomfortable when a generalization is made, but you have to remember that this is bigger than you individually. Again, the problem isn't that you're generalizing, it's that you're using individual cases and using that to paint a broad brush against all men. And then you're taking a generalization of all men and then applying it down to the individual level. You're doing it both ways. That is unacceptable and it's sexist. We do not have to cater our movement around men who can't look into themselves and determine whether or not they should take the generalization seriously. No. Fuck you. We men, we're gonna do whatever the fuck we want. We're not gonna change our behavior just to cater to your sensibilities. We're not gonna keep ourselves from telling jokes and doing weird shit that we men like to do just so that you can feel comfortable. It's up to you to tell us men, because we don't have telepathy. We don't know whether what we're doing is making you uncomfortable. And as the post says, even if you haven't harassed someone, you may have turned the other cheek to someone else doing it at one point. What? You may have contributed to toxic masculinity. Fuck. Are you not going to recognize that women have some role in this whole debacle? I mean, here's what's going on in the feminist circle a lot of the times. Whenever women have any of their problems, they say, oh yeah, it's the patriarchy oppressing us. And then when it's the men's turn to get stomped on and shitted on and with nobody caring about them, then they turn around and say, oh no, it's not us, it's toxic masculinity. Why do you think men are so aggressive and dominant and competitive with each other? They're fighting for the favor of women. They behave like this because women have sexually selected for those behaviors. And when boys are growing up, they are taught by their mothers to be strong and tough and not to cry. So it may be that all the men are at the top flexing their muscles and making all the rules. But let's not forget that women can be just as toxic as men. But that's expressed in more insidious ways. It's expressed more indirectly. That toxicity of women seeps into the men long before they ever reach any positions of power. All of men's behaviors are a product of their success or failure reproducing the next generation. And women are equally to blame as men are. It's gender roles that lump us into one of two groups and tells us how to act and treats us not as individuals, but as members of tribes. much like you are doing when you are blaming the problems of society and rape on men rather than on the general atmosphere of today. So let's stop playing the blame game of, wow, this is all men being so oppressive, and focus on who the true enemy is, which is traditional gender roles. Rape culture, no, that doesn't exist. Regardless, you benefit from a system that has normalized rape culture and toxic masculinity. No, I don't. You benefit from it, in fact. So you do have a role in making the change we need to see. No. Just because I happen to benefit doesn't make me obligated to serve you in some way. And self-awareness is a vital part of that role. You don't seem to be self-aware about how stupid you are. Allies to this movement have to be willing to look into themselves and challenge their own behavior as well as others. Have you looked into your own behavior? Have you looked into the privileges and advantages that you have been receiving? Otherwise, we won't see much growth. We're here to support everyone except men and white people and all those oppressors. We love having you guys as part of our movement. Yeah, so that we can serve you and make you feel special. Fuck you. We're not your servants. We're not going to do everything you want us to do just because you feel like you've been wronged in the past by other people that look superficially like us. And we want to move forward together, so let's continue growing in the right direction. Soph. Fuck you, Soph. Article by Brenda Wambui. Brenda Wambui. Go suck a dick.
I'm and I approve this message.